The transfer window is shut. The international break is almost over. That means return of the Premier League, and we are doing our final predictions. Here we go. All Sports One Web. We are done with the transfer window. We are getting back into week 5 starting this weekend, and we got Jacob here with us, and we are going to dive into the Premier League predictions for this season. That transfer window was insane to start to really at the end. The last couple of weeks, we saw Caicedo move from Brighton over to Chelsea. We saw Harry Kane move from Tottenham to Bayern Munich. I'm sure both of those moves would have had a big impact on people's predictions. That is why we held off here until the transfer window was officially shut. But now it is time to submit our final Premier League predictions for this season. 4 games have gone by. We got 34 more to go. And the way this is going to work is Jacob and I are going to go team by team and place them on our table as we go from who's going to be relegated all the way up to the 2023-24 champions of the Premier League. Jacob, how has been the first four games for you? And are you ready for our predictions?
Yeah, absolutely. Ready to make some predictions. Glad we cheated a little bit, waited for the transfer window to end so we have a better opinion. We're not too biased on the first 4 games because there was some crazy results, but yeah, it's been great. Premier League back.
Yep. And also what's also been super great for the Premier League is Luton Town coming back up, the smallest stadium to ever host a Premier League game. They actually had to cancel their game against Burnley, which is why both of those teams have only played 3 games so far, but they finally got their stadium up to date. They got the first Premier League game there taken care of. Back in the Premier League, 35 more games for them, but they currently sit bottom of the table on 0 points. Where do you have them finishing this year?
Yeah, so pretty rough start back to their Premier League campaign. I don't think that the club itself has too much expectations about this year. I think they're just kind of happy to be back in the Premier League, to be in the Premier League. And I think their home supporters might help them pull off a couple good results, but I don't see anything but them going back down to the championship.
Yeah, what a crazy year. Last year we did our predictions and we said, usually 2 out of the 3 promoted teams go directly back down. And of course, last year, all 3 stayed up. I think I agree with you. I think Luton Town coming up
Not this year, though.
Yo-yo back on down. The other team on 3 games is the other team currently sitting in last place on 0 points in the Premier League so far after their 3 games is Burnley. And for me, I think it will be close, but I actually have them finishing 18th. And the reason why is I love Vincent Kompany. I love those little clips of him in the locker room yelling at players. He commands any room that he walks into. I just think when you play 3 games at home against the big boys, albeit Tottenham, Villa, and City, outscored 11-3 at home. That's as a relegation team, that's where you really need to pick up some kind of points and not have it be so lopsided. But they're going to go for games. They were top of the championship last year, ran away with it, scoring so many goals. But in the Premier League, especially against these better teams, you gotta be able to bunker down, especially at home. And I just think that their goal differential is going to get away for them a little bit, and I think that's going to put them in trouble and get them relegated, going back down. That's 2 of the 3 teams going up and going back down. So I'll let you have the third in Sheffield United. What do you think about them?
I respect your pick for Burnley. It hurts. I love Vincent Kompany. He'll always be my captain. I had them higher on my list, but I understand why you put them there. I think if Kompany can realize that he can't go head to head with the bigger guns, that if he can figure that out, then they'll do enough to, like you said, bunker down and get some results. But again, that was your pick, and I respect that. Sheffield United. I don't think there's, again, just like Luton Town. I don't think there's anywhere else but down for them. They don't look very good at all the first few games, and I think they're going back down.
All right, Sheffield United. Where are you going to put them?
I have 19th on my list. Yeah.
All right. So all three teams going up and going back down for us. None of them are going to stay up. So that leaves one of the teams who only scored 31 goals last year. That's Wolves. They lose Raul Jimenez. They lose Adama Traore. But we've seen some great start. That game against United where they lost 1-0. I think a lot of people felt that they deserved to get at least something out of that game. They definitely were the better team for a good part of that game. And I really like Gary O'Neill. He was the manager for Bournemouth, interim in August last year for Bournemouth. Kind of let them get a little too close to the relegation zone, but won 5 out of the last 7 there to kind of get them above water and stay in the Premier League. He was let go in the summer. And if you remember, that was a similar story to Leicester the year before Claudio Ranieri came in. And so I think maybe Bournemouth can do something a little bit special, or Wolves can do something a little bit special. And for me, that would be staying up. And so I have them finishing just outside the relegation zone. I know the goals are going to be hard to come by, but I think they will do enough to stay up. So I have them finishing outside the relegation zone, but definitely in a battle to stay up. And so that brings us now to Nottingham Forest, their second year in the Premier League. Where do you have them finishing?
Nottingham Forest, I have them maybe a little bit higher than most people. I have them 13th on my list. I feel like their counterattack is pretty lethal, and I feel like they're going to pull off some results against teams that struggle to find the back of the net. Their counterattacking goal against Arsenal, I think, was 14 seconds from their own box to the other side. Awani had a nice little tap in at the end of the pitch. Gibbs White, I think, is really good on the ball. He's a great number 10 for them. Awesome pickup. They've spent enough, I think, to definitely stay out of the relegation battle for most of the season. I don't think they do much better than mid-table, though. But, yeah, I had them 13th.
Very nice. Yeah. Iwanyi scoring 7 consecutive Premier League games. Had an opportunity against Chelsea to make that 8 consecutive Premier League games. Nottingham Forest still got the win there. But I think with that home crowd and plus an informed striker who's 3 goals and assists so far in 4 games already for Forest, I think is going to take them well clear. Currently top half of the table. I think mid-table finish is reasonable for Forest. Unlike Everton, I don't know what it is. I love Sean Dyche. I think he is spectacular. I love Pickford. I still am rooting for him to be the number 1 for England, even though there's so much support for Ramsdale. I do like Pickford there. I love Everton. They've been yo-yoing up and down the Premier League table, always staying up, whether that's with Lampard or whoever. And I think a lot of people think that they should always be higher, but I have them battling to stay up, but I think they will just do it with the talent that they have. I think they will stay up. What are your thoughts on Fulham?
I love watching Fulham personally. A little biased with the 2 Americans on the team, I guess, Anthony Robinson and Tim Ream. I think that they'll be in the relegation battle for part of the season, but I think they have a strong finish despite probably low scoring. Not too many goals. I have them 14th on my list.
14. Mid-table? You want to put them mid-table? Don't forget about Willian, too.
Yeah, Willian's getting a little older. I can see an argument for putting them in battle to stay up. I put them. Yeah, I have them just at the very end of mid-table. Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, so a
think-
team that surprised many last year. I mean, we had Bournemouth finishing in the relegation zone last year, and the big reason for that was their inability to score goals. And they ended up scoring 37 goals last year. Solanke ended up with 6 goals and 7 assists. This year, he's doing even better than that. 2 goals and assists in the 4 games already this season, helping Bournemouth get some good points on the board already. But I just don't know. I just feel like at some point this is going to come crashing down, and they're just not going to be able to stay up, finishing, what was it, 5 points outside the relegation zone last year on 37 goals. I feel like they're going to be definitely in the battle to stay up, and maybe even fall into the relegation zone. And so for me, I guess I'm going to have to put them at 17th here in the battle to stay up. I think they just won't score enough goals to be able to mount
despite their
anything else.
spending, they don't look so good. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Just out of the relegation zone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. Elise rejects Chelsea this summer. It seemed like everybody was saying yes to Chelsea with the amount of moves that they did, but Elise says no. Eze stays. Edward stays. Roy Hodgson comes in for Crystal Palace. No more Patrick Vieira. How do you feel about Crystal Palace this year?
About how I always feel about them, really. Like, just a mediocre team, but never really struggling to stay up. I like Jordan Ayew a lot. I have them 11th.
You have them mid-table?
Yeah, I think they're mid-table.
Above Forest and Fulham.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. So now that moves us into Brentford. The whole news this summer was whether or not Brentford was going to struggle now that Ivan Toney was suspended for his gambling. Seems like everyone in every sport is gambling away and getting suspended. He also caught that 6-month suspension for him, but they got Ben Mee at the back and Brian Mbeumo with 4 goals in 4 games. He's been fantastic for Brentford. And so I think that they will definitely be able to survive throughout that period. They bring Ivan Toney back into the fold in January. And I think that is why they will be mid-table. I don't know that I necessarily like them better than Fulham, so I will keep them on the outside of mid-table, or at the end of mid-table, but outside of the battle to stay up. As we now, 9, 10, 11, 12, we need 2 more in the mid-table before we move into the top 8. Yep. So who out of this group do you have finishing mid-table, as 2 of these teams will find themselves in mid-table, which is hard to believe,
You want me to
but
pick
2
one?
of them will. Yeah, pick one.
I feel strongly about this one. I think West Ham, even though I think they've had a really good start to the year. The Chelsea win, I think, looks a little bit better than it should because of Chelsea's recent woes. And it's a great win for them, but I don't think it means that much right now. Chelsea's brand new team playing with each other. They've got a lot of things to figure out. I think they'll look a lot stronger towards the end of the year than they do now. Losing Declan Rice obviously is going to be a huge hit for them. And I don't think they brought anyone in to fill that spot. I do like Unai Emery, and I think the Ward-Prowse was a great signing. I don't think enough people are talking about the Ward-Prowse signing. He's statistically the best free kick taker in the Premier League right now.
If my life is on the line, I'm taking the golf swing and James Ward-Prowse every day of the week. The guy is, you just know it's coming. He puts the ball down so nicely. He takes a couple steps back. He just stands and waits and whips it top corner every single time.
Yeah, I don't know why he hasn't broken into the England squad over Phillips. Mikel Antonio, if he gets on a goal scoring streak like he did last year for a few games, he was really on fire. I think they'll do enough to stay mid-table and comfortably out of any battle to stay up. but I don't see them doing better than mid-table. I have them 10th
Yeah,
on my list.
it's interesting because, currently what a great start that they've had. They tied Bournemouth to start the year off, but really have beaten Chelsea badly, beaten Brighton badly, and they will be playing in the Europa League, so we will see what that does to them. But a great start to the season. You have them dropping down from 4th to 9th place by the end of the season. A team that I think, that will also be mid-table. I'm going to put Villa in there. I love Unai Emery. I love Oli Watkins. He's one of my favorite players to just watch on the ball. Currently, they sit 10th place. They do have the Conference League coming in, and we know Unai Emery's love for European competitions, all those Europa League wins with Sevilla. I think Villa will suffer a little bit because of that. Playing on a Thursday and then playing on the weekend is just going to be a different battle for them. And so I think they will finish 9th, but I actually like West Ham a lot more than I like Villa. So I'm going to put West Ham above Villa here, but I do think that both of them will find themselves kind of
I had them swapped, but I could see that.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I think Villa will find themselves there in mid-table. And there you have it. So there is 8 teams remaining. So we will give you Brighton. Where will Brighton finish this year? Will they get a Conference League spot, a Europa League spot, a Champions League spot?
Yeah, so just like Pep Guardiola, I'm pretty high on Brighton. I think they're one of the most fun teams to watch in the Premier League. Their possession-style football is amazing. I have them finishing in a Europa League spot, actually, 7th.
7th. So they are currently they will be playing in the Europa League. A tough draw for them in the Europa League, if I'm not mistaken. And so we'll have them repeating. I love the way they play. They're going to go toe-to-toe with anyone. And so I'm excited to see them on the European stage this year. As you have them finishing 6th or 7th. I will now take Tottenham, who it just seemed to be scoring with all of their back line. I mean, Romero is scoring bangers from outside the box. Son is playing extremely well. I love what Postecoglou has come in and done, re-energized that team, doing things the right way, coming over from Celtic. And I think that will land them in a top 7 finish this year. So no Europe for them, I think, will help as well. And so I have them finishing in a Europa League spot ahead of Brighton. So I put them 6th and I'll leave Brighton at 7th. And now we will give you Chelsea, because it is unfair for me to give Chelsea, but I will definitely give my piece on it. So where do you have Chelsea finishing?
All right, so this is a really tough one, obviously. Chelsea has spent an insane amount of money and seemingly have not improved to the start of the season. However, it's really hard to play with a new bunch of players that you've never played with before. Enzo's still fresh. The signing last year, obviously. Caicedo looks not so great right now, but I think he'll find his way and get a rhythm going with Chelsea. I love Pochettino. I think they figure it out and they manage 5th somehow. Wow. I honestly believe that.
So no Europe this year.
No, Europe is huge. They just need to focus on Premier League.
Last time Chelsea didn't have any. So, I mean, 2016, 2017, no Europe. Chelsea started off really poorly. And then, Antonio Conte rattled off 7 consecutive wins and ended up winning the Premier League. Do I see Pochettino being able to do that, especially when Nkunku comes back? No. There's just been so much turmoil within the club. You watch week in, week out. Right now we're playing with a back 5 and 3 center midfielders. I don't know what Gallagher is doing in there every week. Caicedo, like you said, has just been awful in terms of keeping his composure throughout the whole 90 minutes. He is good for a good mistake that will lead to a good opportunity. We've seen that a couple times already since he's been on. And there's just no chemistry throughout the squad. You do bring in a lot of new players. Pochettino hopefully will help grow the young players because it is a young squad, but there's no chemistry right now. And so I just think that even without Europe, there's too many things for Chelsea to deal with to finish in the Champions League spot, even with that extra Champions League spot due to the new Champions League format that's opening up 24-25. I cannot. I want to drive my head through a wall every time I watch them play. I can't. I mean, you know my feelings about Raheem Sterling already. If you watched all of last year, how my many rants on him, and we will definitely have more coming through. He, however, this season has been the focus of everything. If he doesn't do anything, we don't do anything. And he doesn't, I believe the quote you gave me earlier today was, he won't do anything for 70 minutes, but he will for 20 minutes. And we just can't do anything with 20 minutes.
You'll find an odd goal.
That's it. Exactly. We can't do anything with that. And you watch the game against Nottingham Forest. We played again with a back five.
Jackson would have finished that.
Jackson missed a sitter like Torres did back in the days. I just had flashbacks. But you go back to that game, back five, 3 center mids, and then you play, with Sterling and Jackson. You really lose out on anything on the left-hand side because Sterling will play on the right more. Jackson obviously up top. Enzo wants to play in the middle, along with Caicedo and Gallagher are also going to be playing in the middle. So really you're left with just Chilwell going up and down that left-hand flank. Maybe someone will be able to move over, whether that's Jackson or Sterling kind of switching sides. But really you kind of lose that. So really you have to go through the right-hand side through Sterling. And when you watch him and he's not in the mood to take anybody on, he will get the ball and he will play it back. And we will have to switch play to the left-hand side. And for the majority of the second half, we tried to go up that left-hand side. And everything was kind of coming from that left-hand side until Sterling wanted to actually take someone on. He created that chance for Jackson, and Jackson missed the sitter. So we will have to be more clinical, but we haven't been clinical for the last couple of years. And so until that changes, we aren't going to be catching up to any of the teams. We are currently, we're looking at, we're on 4 points. City are on 12 points, I think, atop the table. We are 8 points back after 4 games. And if we can't get this figured out in the next couple, we're going to be so far back of the top 4. I don't see how anyone's going to be able to make up that ground, whether Nkunku comes back, Caicedo gets integrated well or not. But I appreciate you putting us in a Champions League spot. Another team for me. I think
Chelsea's going to be really happy that they changed the format this year, and
yeah,
and that Premier League's getting an extra spot.
Yeah, it would be great to see. I'm hoping that we can finish strong and maybe get a cup. With all the training, all the fitness training that Pochettino does, that's kind of the idea, is to finish strong. But we will see how that goes. A team that I'm super interested to see in the Champions League this year is Newcastle. What a tough group they drew in the Champions League. The group of death for sure. But I think they can pull it out. I think they can advance second in that group purely based on their home form. All of last year, they only lost once at home, and that was to Liverpool. All of this year, they've only lost once at home, and that was to Liverpool. I don't know that they will lose again at home in the Premier League. I hope that they won't lose at home in the Champions League. It is going to be rocking at St. James's Park under the lights every Tuesday and Wednesday. And we will be covering it here at the webcast, so stay tuned as that goes through. But I like for Newcastle to finish in the top 5 again this season. I just think that home form is too important. And they can score in so many different ways. They have a lot of energy as well. I think it will take a little bit of a toll. So I think they will finish 5th, fighting 5th or 6th really for most of the season. And I think they will be the ones who are thankful for the extra Champions League spot, because I think that will allow them to stay in the competition and keep that rebuild going as fast as possible. And that leaves us 4 more teams, but only 3 more spots atop the table. So we will give you Manchester United on this one. Where are you placing United?
Are we sticking with this? There's no scooting down possibilities?
Yeah, you can scoot them down. You can scoot whoever you want down. But
okay.
Someone's got to fall down.
Newcastle 6th, for example.
Okay.
But I feel like it would be too much. Newcastle 6, not United. So yeah, United. I don't think. I think they're too high on Hoyland. I think that it's kind of just Walmart Holland. I don't think he's going to produce nearly as much as they're hoping. Just signing a guy with a similar name. I still think that like Bruno Fernandes and Rashford are good enough that they'll be in a 4th place spot by the end of the year. I think Casemiro was probably the signing of the year last year. Onana should be able to support what Ten Hag wants to do with the team a lot more than De Gea was, even though De Gea was obviously great at shot stopping. I think Onana will allow them to play out of the back, and it'll really help what Ten Hag wants to do. I have them 4th.
All right. You have them 4th and Chelsea 5th?
That's how I have them. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So there you go. So we bump everybody down. Newcastle into a Europa League spot and Brighton into the Conference League 8th place as we move on to the final 3. And I will be doing Liverpool here. I will take Liverpool. That game against Newcastle, Nunez comes on, 2 brilliant goals for him to snag all 3 points away from St. James's Park. I think he needs to be starting. I think Jota needs to be starting. I think that just allows a lot more movement from midfield to attack when both of those people are starting. Jota is really great at carrying the ball. Nunez is really great at making runs, can bully people, as well as good speed on through balls. And so I really like Liverpool this year, and I actually have them finishing above United, above Chelsea, and in a Champions League spot after missing out last year. They would have been the team that qualified for this new Champions League format if it started this year, but they find themselves in the Europa League. We'll see if Klopp can avenge their finals loss against Sevilla a couple years ago and win that competition and get direct access to the Champions League. But for me, I think they will finish in a top 5 spot to get that. And so now, because you can't do Manchester City, I will be giving you Arsenal. What are your thoughts on Havertz? I know your favorite.
Yeah, so 2 big signings for Arsenal, Kai Havertz, and obviously the big one, Declan Rice. I feel very differently about those signings. I think the Declan Rice signing was absolutely amazing. For example, I think if Liverpool was able to pull that off, I'd be talking about them to compete with City for the number 1 spot. Like, he's that good. I think he'll be great for Arsenal.
How about for England, pairing up with Jude Bellingham? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
England looks great. They looked great the other day against Scotland. As long as Declan Rice doesn't get in his head about the transfer fee and how much he got signed for, especially as a person that isn't really there to score goals. Sometimes that can get in your head. If you don't have the stats, the media might start picking at you, even though if you're watching the game, he's doing a lot for the team and he's holding possession and he's just great in the number 6 role. Kai Havertz signing, I don't really understand. I don't think that was what they needed. I think they could have used that money better. I think last season, the games, they kind of found a way to get wins in. It almost seemed like in the beginning, I think a lot of people felt this way. They were just finding wins, right? Like that's what it takes to win the Premier League. You have to be the best team in the league, but you also need to be able to find wins. And when you're not playing that well, they had those last minute goals to just salvage points and to win the games. And I don't think they're going to have the same kind of magic this year, especially with being in Champions League. Mikel Arteta is under a microscope right now. It's the first time where everyone's like, okay, Mikel, like you're the head coach. You gotta figure out to win a trophy, win the Premier League trophy. I think they finished third because of all those reasons.
Third behind Liverpool, but above United and Chelsea. And that leaves Manchester City. Now, I think I disagree with you when you say that Arsenal, I agree that they found wins last year, but I disagree that they're not going to find them this year. We saw it against Manchester United. This new time stoppage rule, where we're seeing 8, 9, 10 minutes at the end of games to kind of help battle that time of in play versus out of play and bring that up a little bit more. We saw that the World Cup. I think the team that's going to benefit the most out of the entire Premier League is Arsenal. And the reason why is exactly kind of what you mentioned about last year, where they're able to find wins, kind of have some close games, and then find a way to win. That is how Arsenal are going to be. They are electric. They are quick. They play well together. And if you give them more time with their backs against the wall late in games, I think it's only going to help them because they have these different ways that they can get over the line. And so I think that that's going to make them more dangerous this year than last year. I agree with you. Kai Havertz, I don't know what I can say. He scored the Champions League winning goal. He scored the Club World Cup winning goal. He will be a Chelsea legend for that. He is technically one of the most gifted players that have ever joined Chelsea since I've been a fan watching. But his ability to use that effectively has been the entire problem. I think Arteta saw his technical ability, hoped that he could extract that and get him scoring goals, getting assists and all of that. But he doesn't have the confidence. He's back eating all of the gummy bears and Skittles at halftime because he got a new nutritionist at the end of his Chelsea career. And I just feel like he just is too reactionary instead of more effective and pre-planned and structured. I think he's too reactionary, and I think that's what's leading him to be in these high pressure moments when he doesn't need to be because he's just reacting. And so I think he needs to kind of maybe be on the bench a little bit, and maybe they can work him back in. But I do think Arsenal are going to be there throughout the entire season. But I can't look past Manchester City. I can't look past Manchester City. And so I have to go with Manchester City. This is the first time under Pep that City have started the season with 3 wins. And granted, that first season, they didn't go on to win the Premier League as Chelsea won that in the 16-17 season. But the fact that they were able to start off so well, 4 wins from 4 now, that has been their Achilles heel for the entirety of Pep's reign. Is they start slow, then November, December, January, February, they go unbeaten, pick up a Carabao Cup, and then ride that into the quarterfinals, semifinals of the Champions League, build a lead up in the league, and then take care of business in the Champions League if they can. And now they're starting off so well. Yes, they lost Gundogan, but they bring in Kovacic, who I think fits Pep's style so well once he gets used to playing with everybody. KDB has been out, and people forget this. I feel like he's going to come back into the fold and get his feet going. And usually when he comes back from injury, I don't feel like there's really much of a blip. He works his way back in, and I think it's perfectly fine. We see Phil Foden finally putting the team on his back when it's needed and getting it over the line. Jack Grealish and Haaland are building a better and better and better relationship off the field, and I think that's going to translate. I do think that City will have way more draws this year. Because of this stoppage time rule, I think City is a team that actually gets hurt by that. I think you're going to see a lot of games where City are up 1 with that great back line that they have, bringing in Gardival to join Ruben Diaz, Ake, Stones. Laporte went to Saudi Arabia, but I mean, with all those options, it doesn't really matter. Kyle Walker still in great form as well. I think they'll be up for a majority of every single game, and it's just whether or not a team can clip one at the end. And I think that'll happen more than we are used to. But I just think 2 goals against so far in the 4 games. They're going to be hard to score against. And I think that's just going to make them unbeatable. They do have the Club World Cup and all of these extra games, but I can't look past City making it 3 in a row. 4 in a row. What am I talking about? Yeah. 4 in a row.
The first
which
team.
would be absolutely first team to be 4 in a row. It would be absolutely incredible. And what a way! Hopefully, Pep will do that, play do 1 more year, and then move on to go coach somebody else, because that is all we're waiting for at this point.
Yeah, obviously losing Gundogan and Mahrez are huge. Those are 2 fantastic players. I think, like you said, Kovacic is a really good fill-in for Gundogan, and now that De Bruyne is injured, he's kind of playing that number 8 role. I think he's not going to score as much as Gundogan. Gundogan had a couple goals that really helped us, obviously, the last couple of years, FA Cup final, last game against Aston Villa a couple seasons ago. But Kovacic is exactly what Pep likes to see in a player. He's a hard worker, great in possession, doesn't make stupid mistakes. And I think the signing of Vardiol is absolutely massive. He is, again, just a perfect Pep signing. City just seems to be able to sign people that work perfectly in the system. Vardiol's great on the ball, a great defender. I'm all about that signing. I think Doku is a little bit more of a stretch. He's not exactly the player that Pep seeks. He's more of a counterattacking, more flashy, he'll beat you on the dribble. I still think that he will be a good addition. We needed to sign a winger to replace the Mahrez. Obviously, we have Bernardo Silva to play that. Started most big games over Mahrez anyway. I see City being just fine. And I disagree with your point that the extra time will hurt City. I think Pep Guardiola's style is kind of, especially when he was with Barcelona, was to just pass teams to death. And it's obviously a lot more taxing to play defense the whole game. And he just breaks down teams through just tiring them out. And a lot of Barcelona games, they would score a lot towards the end of games because teams just were absolutely exhausted trying to chase shadows against Xavi and Iniesta. And I think that Guardiola knows this and will go back to more of his La Masia roots and start employing just possession to break down teams. I see City going 4 in a row. I don't see why not. I think this will be a 1-horse race for most of it. And the other 4 teams in that UCL spot that we have will be leapfrogging each other and just trying to stay in that spot.
Well, there you have it. There is our final EPL predictions from us here at the webcast. And so excited to be done with the international break and move into week 5 of the Premier League this week. The first weekend where we have college football, NFL, and EPL all on the same weekend. MLB is also pushing towards the playoffs as well. And so it is just that great time of the year for sports. So go ahead, enjoy all of those. Remember to get your NFL picks in on ESPN and pick along with us. Enjoy the Thursday night game tonight, Minnesota taking on the Eagles, and we will see you next time.